Good afternoon, guys. This is DeltaJeans with the Rawstocks community. I'll just be going over a few tickers for this week's watch list. We just want to give a shout out to Gam Edge for being our data provider. This is our number one tool that we use at Rawstocks. So, reading the Greeks in Delta, we're first gonna, point out important levels that I would like to. So I just mark out 50% of this daily candle range. We see that we had aggressive move downwards, and then we see buyers have stepped in on Friday, and we see that they're just over 50% of that candle. So I use the 50% rule for all of this, and we see that an important level right here is 390. We have insignificant in the money calls. We don't really expect that level to hold, but it might. I'm just kidding. It probably won't, but considering the amount of negative delta that we have in the overhead, and it looks like negative gamma is on the bearish side of things. And then we're going to zoom out this real quick. We see Adobe for this week's expiration. We see that we're currently sitting at 394, 395, around that. If we push through this would be our drunken sailor range. We could see some sort of chop back and forth between this. If we get below this, I could potentially expect more downside. Now that we marked this out with our chart, we see 390 to 420, and then we have a significant negative delta level right here at 400. Getting over something like this could potentially push it out of the money. And depending on where we're at in the week and how long we stay above 400, we could see charm take over, and charm would assist us on this movement upwards. So getting into the chart itself, get this out of the way for you guys. So we're seeing we're at 394. I'd like to see 50% of this hold, but as we said here, 390. Sorry, yeah, 390. Getting over that would, that would be pretty important. We wouldn't want to get 390 in the money. Getting something like that in the money, could potentially see more downside. So we'll mark out 390 right here, right around here. Go to the 4-hour time frame. Alright, we see that we have a fair value gap right here. This is at 385. Like I said, getting below 390 itself could potentially push us downwards, and I would expect this fair value gap to get mitigated. And we could see more downside after that. I don't really expect this fair value gap to hold after 390 gets pushed through. But I would like to see, push up into 400 and see how we hold there and possibly reject. So I could see buyers stepping in 400 and then rejecting, and then we could target 386. I expect buyers to continue upwards, but like I said, so look for 400 for optimal trade entry to the downside to see how we hold at that level. And then if we don't even push up to 400, if we just immediately get below 390, I would just expect this fair value gap to get mitigated, and then or see it to hold. But this is a nice little move downwards. You could take profit here, but if not, if you want to hold for a little bit longer and then see if sellers continue to take over. Looking on the 1-hour time frame, yeah, so you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. Alright, next one's going to be Home Depot. Alright, again, we're going to start with the Greeks of things, mark out important levels that we see fit. We see we're at 350. We see this is a clear transition. We have negative delta in the overhead, and we really don't see a whole lot of speculation to the upside on Home Depot. There's a lot of factors that will come into this, considering the political tariffs that are at play. That could have some sort of significant impact on Home Depot, especially with if interest rates aren't decreasing, inflation rising. You wouldn't see a lot of people making any home improvements on their home. So there's reason to believe why there's so much speculation to the downside on this. But we have this would be our transition to the upside, but I really don't expect this to hold, considering gamma itself is not in line with this speculation upside. Alright, so we're going back to the daily, to a top-down analysis. Get this out of the way. Alright, so this previous candle right here is the daily. We see that buyers have stepped in again, and we have a hammer. So we'll go down to, I would like to see us test, around 50% of this daily fair value gap. And then, continue our downward move to the downside. So our optimal trade entry would be at 355. See, we have a smaller fair value gap here, 50%, 356, 355. That marks out perfectly. Getting over 355 could potentially transition things. Let me just go back to this real quick so you guys don't lose these important levels. Those 355 would be right here, right? So we see the negative delta right there. That's a huge level. There's a lot of in the money puts right there. Depending on what happens next week, we could see these are obviously in the money, and we could see some sort of profit taking occur, and this level could decrease with buyers stepping in, continuing to push to the upside, and getting above 355 would structurally change this whole entire environment, and I would see that puts selling would fuel this upwards if we get above this, because at this point all these puts would be out of the money, and their delta would be decreasing the further out of the money they go. So if you guys don't understand any of that, always come back to the Rawstocks community. I don't mind explaining that. So like I said, see how we react to 355. Getting over this could potentially push us further upwards, and then I would like to see a change in structure on the 1 hour time frame, and then potentially go higher from here. I'm not saying this is the bottom, but I would like to see some sort of retracement into this 50%, or if we might reject off of this and continue, further downside. Next one, we'll do PLMR. I thought this one was great. Alright, so this is just another tool that we have over here at Gamma Edge. We have net delta at 130, and then out of the money calls at 135. This whole entire speculation is just to the upside. Very supportive structure to the upside in terms of gamma, charm, and delta. So let's go. So we marked out the important levels here is 135. 135 would take us over here. So all these deltas getting in the money could potentially fuel us higher. And then we also have, there isn't a whole lot of speculation here. This is very insignificant, but there is something to note is the supportive structure at 130. Getting 130 out of the money you know, could see some sort of reversal for a grab of liquidity to the downside. So we see 130 is supportive in structure on the 4-hour time frame, as well as this fair value gap below us. So at this point, if we're going to be mitigating this fair value gap and we're already below 130, I wouldn't be surprised to see downside after we get this, because at this point calls would be selling because their delta would be decreasing in a value exponentially. But I would like to see more upside in this. We gotta remember, we gotta be able to play both sides, and where this liquidity is and how the delta is going to react to it is going to be important to this. So we have full time frame continuity to the upside, and then if you guys were to make a trade, I would like to see this order block. I see this order block mitigated, and see if we displace through 50% of this. See how we react to this. So again, if we were to respect this on the 15-minute time frame, if we get above 132, we could definitely see 135. But if, you know, price respects it in the 15-minute time frame and we don't get through 50% of this order block, which would be at 132.83, I would expect some sort of a retracement to the downside, right? All right, so now that you guys got that, next one is going to be Apple. The daily. Alright, so for Apple, you can see we're put dominated. I would like to see this structure change next week if we get a little bit more upside on Monday. So we see the supportive structure here at 210. Getting below 210, I would expect, you know, this to become out of the money, all these deltas to become out of the money, and this is net OI here is all negative. So we see that puts are pretty dominant in this area in terms of net OI structure. But in this drunken sailor range, I wouldn't be able to see a clear transition to the upside unless we get above 217. But even if we were to get above 217, we see the net delta right here is not supportive to the upside, and neither is this right here. I would expect some sort of pausing right here from 217 to 220, considering the net OI is a significant number. We can consider this to be some sort of ledge right here, some sort of pausing at 220, and then we'll see how this lines up with these PD arrays on the chart. Alright, so we have something similar, I think, as Home Depot. We forgot where this line was being drawn from, but we have, let's see, we have a daily candle. Alright. Alright, we see we have a fair value gap on the 4-hour time frame. This would match up with 215. And we see that we've pretty much respected this area so far. We've not pushed through 50% of this area. So I wouldn't really like to see, you know, structure to the upside unless we have pushed through this level. So 215 would be in my line in the sand. Going back to this. I think we did Apple on the weekly. That's what I was looking at because I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this this one for a while. Sorry about the delay, guys. Here, I'm just getting kind of tired. Been up kind of late. All right, so like I said, looks like we're respecting this. There's some sort of liquidity grab, and we could see more downside and see 210 hold. Really doesn't look like we've swept through this area so much, but getting above this, I would definitely like to say, or I'd like to say we could possibly mitigate this fair value gap and push up into 220 and reject off of there, considering the negative delta in the environment. Like I said, we said 217 to 220 was not in our favor, but I would like to see us take this internal liquidity out before we see a retracement back to the downside. So I'm expecting, let's see how we react to 215. Displacing through this, I would be bullish and target 217 to 220 in this area. Small little move there, but we have no idea how Monday is going to react. And then going on to the next one, it's going to be APP. All right. Alright, so for this picture right here, we see we're at 292 and 295. We're call dominant all around. There's not much speculation to the downside. Getting above 300 could definitely propel us higher. So our key levels for this to pay attention to are 300, and then down below will be 290. Alright, and then we'll go from there. We play this level by level. Alright, we see that there's a fair value gap here, and we said that 300 was an important level. 300 would be, you know, right here. Looks like we've already pushed through 50% of this fair value gap over here. It looks like in the 4-hour time frame, we have a fair value gap right here that we're respecting. Getting above this white line at 296. If we reject here, if we go back down here, but as the longer we stay above 290, the better. So displacement through this, and then maybe target 300, and then getting above 300, we could see a possible rejection right here. Going back to the daily. Yeah, 300, and then, you know, 330 is all the way up here. This will be a somewhat smooth transition till we get to 310. 310 would, you know, not be so smooth considering the negative delta and negative gamma right here. It's not very supportive. So this would be somewhat of a speed bump or an area of rejection. That's the reason I went back to here. I don't memorize all these levels by heart. So going back to this, we see that 310, where is 310 at? So looks like we have a fair value gap right here on the 4-hour. So we see 310. I would like to see price push up into this area and then possibly reject. So we could, and if we go through this, I would expect to see 330. But pay attention to 310 on app and look for rejection back here, back to the downside at 290. So I would look on the smaller time frame, maybe the 5 to 15 minute chart. And then we obviously see we pushed through this previous high. And so this looks like a pretty good target right here to 310. So I would definitely mark that out on app. All right, next one is going to be Amazon. And then we have one more after that. Try to make this quick, guys. Sorry for this long wait. So we see that, upside is definitely supportive underneath of us in terms of positive delta. We're at 197. That's where we closed. Getting above 200 could potentially pull us higher. As this in the money gets below us, or in the money delta gets below us, this could grow, or it will grow. And then we could see all these puts by this point start to decay, or, I would imagine if I was someone holding a put that was that far out of the money, I would start, getting kind of nervous and start selling my position. So we could see put selling assist us in structure. But 190 is, considered our bottom. We'll see how these levels hold up. 190, and then getting above 200. And then we see 205 to 210. I'll say 210 to really be our area of resistance. Alright, we see that we filled the gap over here on the daily on Amazon. We see that we've held this line day over day, and buyers have stepped in. Let's go to the weekly. Alright, so we see some some undecisiveness here is what I would say. In terms of buyers and sellers, considering how big these wicks are on either side. So this isn't really a directional move to either side, but getting above 197 to 200 as we talked about. 50% of this 200. Let's go back to the 4 hour. So we can see we've been consolidating in this range. I would like to see a breakout to the upside and then, potentially reject here at 210 or this fair value gap that we have here at 206. So I'd be expecting some sort of upside, making calls on Amazon. Considering, we haven't really displaced lower unless some sort of news comes out. But that's where we left, and that's where I would like to see some more upside and target 207 and see if we mitigate through this in 210. We could potentially target 215. So, and keep in mind all this is the only thing that's in the way really is 210. So getting above this would make all those puts out of the money. So definitely look for the rejection around here, but I definitely think this move is supportive all the way up into this range. I wish you guys, good luck for next week, and if you want to hear more of this, always be in our Rawstocks community, and just hit the link down below. I'll talk to you guys later.